From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Hello, hello. You have reached the Badass Counseling Show. I am Sven the host. Wherever you are, whether you are in the Appalachians or the Adirondacks, the continental divide of the United States, or way up my Viking kinfolk of northern Minnesota and North Dakota, and well, all of Minnesota, Scandinavia, and in the Viking diaspora throughout the world, us Scandinavian folk, I am sending you a wonderful hello. I know it is a cold time of year in the Northern Hemisphere and nice and toasty warm down south, way south. So it's just great to have everyone here today. I am actually joined in studio by Rob the Rocket and KC. She has come out of the booth to join us. Good morning, KC. Good morning, Roberto.
Good morning.
There she is. She's out of the booth.
Good morning.
Yeah. Winter is here, but it's always warm and cozy in our program, I think.
Indeed. Indeed. How does it feel to be out of the booth today, KC?
Scary. But I'm happy to join Bennett.
That's awesome. Speaking of Bennett, Rob, tell us about Bennett, our guest today.
Happy to, Sven. Bennett wrote into us and said, I've spent 2/3 of my life in therapy, group work, trauma and mental health and addiction education, conquering my demons, overcoming my abandonment and mother wounds. Yet here I sit as a single exhausted mother with an adult child with concurrent disorders and addictions and a teenager with possible PTSD from their sibling and home life. I'm feeling more overwhelmed than I ever have. I have more hatred and disdain for my life, and because of my current mental health, I find myself giving up trying, and self-sabotage has become a normal thing for me now. What the F am I missing? Sigh.
Bennett, great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You bet.
Nice to be here.
Great. Let me ask you, what, in one sentence or less, is the hardest part of your life right now? In one sentence or less?
Oh, that's a great question. I think right now I would have to say I'm focused on getting my mental health straight. So my mental health and health, physical health.
And what is the biggest thing, in one sentence, afflicting your mental health? What specifically are we talking about?
I think it's the exhaustion of being a single parent, having to do everything myself.
And when you're referring to doing everything yourself, what are we talking about?
We're thinking, I'm working, paying the bills, taking care of the children, assisting them with their mental health and their health along the way as well, and just trying to balance life in general.
And what, if you were to put it into percentages, you spend a bit there in this section of your write-up, the midsection of your write-up, talking about the situations with each of your kids, one an adult child and one a teen child. What percent of your present mental health fatigue and struggle, what percent is because of all that's going on with the mental health of your children?
I would actually go probably about 80%.
80%, right.
80%.
So then is it reasonable to assume that if your children were stable and on their feet and had sort of gotten their mental health, for lack of a better word, under control and maybe even living on their own, would it be safe to say that your life would be basically nothing like it is right now?
I would say yes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a big help for sure. Yeah.
I would think so. I mean, if it's 80% of what you're struggling with, yeah, obviously it would be radically different. And as you sum up the current mental health situation of your kids and as it affects your own, what is the single hardest part about it? About the situation with your kids and you and your home and this little family of yours? What is the single hardest part?
Knowing if I'm doing it right, knowing if if I'm making wise decisions on my own. I don't trust my own gut sometimes because of the things I've been through. So I guess I second guess myself and I wonder, am I doing this right? Okay. Is this correct?
And that question is driven by fear. It's fear that I'm doing it wrong. Fear
Yes.
that I'm not doing it right. Okay. And so, and that's understandable because you're dealing in a realm that, no matter what your own background and pain and so on and so forth, I'm going to assume you weren't trained to handle this. Right.
No.
And it's such a mental health in and of itself, as well as soul health and all that goes with it. And especially when it's happening in ones we love and ones we're responsible for. It's such a complex algebra. It's more than people can't possibly understand until you've been through it. You can't possibly understand how profoundly intricate and complicated and difficult, on top of the fact that the system, and I don't mean to be a big complainer about, the system in the world today, and no, but the mental health system and the soul health system, it's hard and it's convoluted and it's broken and it's, and so let me ask you, the fear then, am I doing it wrong? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you are doing it wrong, okay, let's just play with that for a second. Let's assume you did do it wrong or are doing it wrong or are going to do it wrong. What is the one eventuality or the one result that you most fear happening if you're doing it wrong? What would be the absolute worst thing that you can imagine or that you fear most, that you legitimately fear most?
Truthfully, that my son will take his life. That is a huge, huge one.
And is your son
Absolutely.
the older or the younger?
He's the eldest, yes.
He's the older. My son will take his life. And so let me ask you then, does that fear, and that's legit, and I can completely understand, and sounds like you're tearing up a little bit right now. What are you feeling right now?
I'm afraid. I'm scared for him. I'm afraid for him, but I'm also, I guess I internalize that too. Did I do it wrong? Did I do that to him?
Fair enough. And so let me ask you, in your fear of him killing himself, if that fear is always there, does that cause you inside of yourself to pull back from making hard decisions, to pull back from not stepping in and being firm? And furthermore, answer those first. Does it cause you to pull back from taking action that you sometimes want to take, or does it cause you immense doubt and cause you to not do as much as you might want to do?
It certainly does, for sure, because of the fact that, I don't want to push him too hard. I don't want to be that one who I hold space for him very well. I like to see him be himself.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't want to push him. I'm afraid to,
Right. Understandable. Let me ask you, and for those of you listening in to the show, this is Suicide Prevention Month. And so this topic coming up is quite timely. And I'm so grateful that you had the courage to come on the show and talk about this. And so, thank you. You fear pushing him and so forth. Let me ask you, do you also fear holding strong boundaries and standing up to him when he's overstepping himself, or when he's maybe being a jerk to his younger sibling and so forth?
See, there's a younger me and an older me in this relationship with him. The younger me didn't even realize there was boundaries. I just let him do kind of what he needed to do. And like I said, held that space for him and let him grow. Now I'm a little bit more prone to be able to say to him nicely in a different way, to be able to come at him and say, this is what you did. So it's not a battle, and I try to avoid that battle, but I definitely still struggle with the boundary issue with him, for sure.
And let me ask you, are you protecting the younger sibling? Are you putting as much effort into protecting the younger sibling as you are to sort of, to some degree, tap dancing with the older sibling?
I would say that for, again, the first part of our relationship, her and I, she was...
and she being the younger sibling, right? Your teenager?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So with her, I didn't realize the effect it was having on her until she got a little bit older and was able to express it to me on how it was affecting her. I didn't understand, and I did not realize that she would hide in closets when her brother had an explosive moment, and that she was so terrified And that breaks my heart to know that, to find that out.
Okay.
So I think now what I've done is I've sort of flipped the narrative, and I try to connect more with her and spend time with her and listen to her and help her through her stuff. Well, he's sort of in the background a little more now, doing his thing.
And then so back to my original question, and I love what you're doing, by the way, and connecting with her more and making her feel loved and giving her the attention, because what can happen when there is a dominant personality, one of the kids, that they suck all the oxygen out of the room and everyone else in the room loses, but you have equal responsibility to each of those children, and specifically to protect that younger one. And it's a shame that you have to, but to protect that younger one and make the younger one feel safe. And that's where you can't be afraid of standing up to that older one and shutting that shit down. It's like, no, this is not okay. This is not okay. And so if you were to be totally honest, one last question, then I want to pull Casey and Rob into this conversation if they'd like to. But I want to ask you one question. If you were to be totally honest here, Bennett, you've got 3 people in your home, right? The 3 of you are living together. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So it's your son, who is how old?
21.
And your daughter, who is how old?
16.
16. All right.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me the power structure in the home. And I want you to do it by telling me who has what percent of the power. So is it, 40, 30, 30? And who has it? Is it 80, 10 and 10? Or, okay, so what percent does Bennett have? What percent does your son have? And what percent does your daughter have, if you were to be totally honest?
Well, I definitely pulled back a lot of my power. I've brought it back. So I would say that it was never like this before, but I'm looking at, I would say I probably have about 60%, and they each have, my son would have 30 and my daughter would have 20.
Fair enough. I appreciate your honest assessment. Now, let me ask you this question before I pull the others in. And it's simply this. If those numbers weren't quite accurate, the 60, 30, 10, what would be your second guess of what might be even more accurate than the 60, 30, 10? Or if you were to change those slightly, what might it be? If, and I'm not saying they are, I don't know, but if they were wrong, what might the numbers be instead of 60, 30, 10?
At one point, I would say absolutely my son had 80% and my daughter had 10 and I had 10.
And that shifted when?
I would say when I started to do my own work, my own healing, my own journey, going back to school, learning psychology, sociology, all the different things, attending groups, going to therapy on my own.
And as a result of all those things, what happened in you that caused you to change the power structure?
Realizing that there is such a thing as emotions, that there is such a thing as boundaries, realizing that I do have some power, that I do have a voice.
Okay. All right. I want to bring KC in. KC is here with us. And any thoughts on this, KC?
First of all, I know what it is to be a single parent. I've been a single parent pretty much my entire motherhood. And so my heart goes out to you. I know how difficult it can be to be mother, father, breadwinner, support system, and then, keep your eye on all the things they're trying to hide from you, right? So my heart goes out to you for that, and I applaud you for that. Why are you, I guess my first question is, why are you worried that your son is potentially suicidal?
He has issues. So he was premature. He was 1 pound, 11 ounces, 25-week baby. So he's had a lot of struggles throughout his time. And he's had autism. But he's always threatened it throughout his teenage years. He's always threatened it. But he's also harmed himself as well.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just for my own clarity, Casey asked you about why you think he's suicidal, and you brought up him being born prematurely and 1 pound, 2.5 ounces, whatever it is, and et cetera. What does that have to do with suicide? Help me understand as you see it.
I just feel like it's always been quite a struggle with him emotionally, his emotional regulation, his impulsivity. It has affected a lot of different things. I feel that he's never really had the healthcare that he's required to see if maybe there is something that is happening inside of him, more than just the emotional piece or, the traumas that he has been through. So I do kind of relate it back to that, but more updated. I mean, he's harmed himself. He's constantly harming himself. I've had police at an ambulance at my house for him because he's taken off and told me he's going to harm himself and take his life. He puts himself in situations where he could eventually hurt himself. And I've had to remove him from those situations. And it's almost like he does it on purpose. So
why would he do it on purpose? If you were to speculate, what do you think he's trying to get? You've seen this pattern enough times. When does it appear? What is he wanting? And you said he threatens it, which implies he's weaponizing it. And if you're weaponizing something, it says you're trying to get something. When does it happen? What's he trying to get?
A lot of the times it happens when he's having struggles with friends or if a girlfriend breaks up with him. So it all relates to that kind of stuff.
So it's not that he's threatening you. You're pissing me off today, Mom. I'm going to go kill myself.
Right. It's more about how he's feeling in the moment because his girlfriend broke up with him or something, or they fought or whatever.
And then is he in therapy himself or part of any groups or?
That's the hard part, is how do you help somebody who won't help themselves? Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm at. As much as I have brought to him to the table so many different options, and I've even put that where I have done it. I've shown him this is how I go to therapy. I do the group work. I show him, and he still refuses the help.
I'm just gonna make a recommendation for you with him, and this is part of my own life experience. So there's a group called NAMI. I'm sure you're familiar if you're in the psychology world, National Association of Mental Illness. I wish they would rename that. But they are a huge resource for people like you, for people like me, for young people. They have support groups for young people. And they also will have wonderful advice for you in handling your son. And one of the things that I was told is that mental illness or autism or things like that are not, in other words, it's not a pass for him to act, excuse me, like an asshole.
That's right.
Okay? Agreed.
And so they will give you tools in order to work with him, when you're speaking with him, when he's not acting properly in the home or with the family. I'm sure you're supporting him at this point, or it seems like he's living in your home. And those are things that you're doing for him. And those things at 21 years old do not come for free. They come at a price, right? And so that price could be, look, I'm supporting you. You're living here. And you have to live by my rules, and that means acting accordingly. That means going to therapy. That means being in a group, because it sounds like he really needs to be in something, because this is probably just going to escalate and get worse as he gets older. And
the challenge to taking that hard line, Bennett, the real challenge to that is that you are coming from a past with your son where he had 80% of the power. I had a teacher in high school, and my senior year, it was English literature, and it was Mr. Liu, and Mr. Liu comes in on like the second day of class, third day of class, and he's all flustered, and he's sort of half laughing, and he says, I just came from my sophomore class, and he basically says, I kicked their ass, and he's giggling to himself, and he says, always remember this, whether you're a teacher or any sort of leadership position, you got to be hard on them in the beginning so that you can be soft later. But if you're soft in the beginning, It's very, very hard to be hard later because they'll think you're this softy and they won't respect you. Well, you're trying to make that shift from soft to hard. And the mere fact that you're even at the point now where you have 60% of the power, okay, where you're reclaiming your power, that only came by pain, didn't it? It only came by the hardship and the frustration. It's like, I can't fucking do this anymore. This has to change. Am I correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'll bet you never in your life thought that in a weird way, I'm grateful that I had that pain because finally I'm taking shit under control and fixing this fucking situation. Am I correct?
You are 100%. 100%.
I just want to say two more things for your daughter, who's 16 and still in school, high school, presumably. One of the things that was really helpful for me with my younger daughter was getting her involved with an organization which is pretty much part of, I think, every school, called Kids in Crisis. I don't know if you're familiar with Kids in Crisis, are you?
I have not heard of that one, no.
You should ask your school or just Google Kids in Crisis. They were a game changer for me with my younger daughter. And she found them herself. And the other thing is that every school has counselors, and usually they're pretty good. And so, maybe get the counselor involved in helping your daughter with her mental health. And the last thing that I want to say is that, Sven always talks about, trying to do things with an empty love cup. Right now, your love cup admittedly has a hole in it, right? You're trying to fix yourself. And at the same time, you're trying to fix them. And so you're trying to do all this stuff from an empty cup. I think that you need to get people that can help focus on your kids while you focus on yourself. Secure your own air mask before you start securing. And it sounds horrible as a mother. I know we want to just help them first before we help ourselves. But you can simultaneously get them help, insist with your son. I mean, your daughter's a no-brainer. She's 16 years old, so she's going to probably do whatever you ask her to or guide her to do. But to get, yourself, and NAMI and Kids in Crisis and the school counselor are all great places to start.
I have a question for Casey on that, but right after this short break.
So I was telling a buddy of mine how he seems happier. He told me about the book that changed his life. So I bit. I went to the Badass Counseling website and downloaded There's a Hole in My Love Cup audiobook. I started listening to it on my commute home from work, and holy cow, it was a Louisville slugger to the face. I literally sat in my car in the driveway night after night, listening through to the end of a chapter or doing the journaling exercises. My wife started to see changes. I started to change a lot. My default response stopped always being anger. Now, I manage a team of salespeople, and I changed as a leader. I was listening more, not always just reacting. When their numbers started going up seemingly out of nowhere, I knew what the reason was. There's a Hole in My Love Cup is now required listening for any person on my sales team or working for me, and I gladly buy it for them. You gotta listen to this book.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. Now, back to the badass.
We are back with Bennett. Casey, I want to ask you a question. You were offering some insights from your own personal experience with your own family, and to the degree you feel comfortable answering. Did you have to make a shift? Bennett talks about a shift in how she interacted with her oldest child, not just her youngest child, that she's sort of taking her youngest under her wing more and giving her more attention and love. Did you have to make a shift in how you interacted with your older child? Or, I mean, in Bennett's case, the older one is the one creating the problems that had its own origins, and we can explore that or not. But the point is, did you have to make a shift in how you interacted with your older?
I think I had to make a shift with both of them, and I think with the older one, I ended up having to be a little tougher, and with the younger one, I had to end up being softer for whatever reason. And also, I think I protected the older one more than I did the younger one.
Before
before.
And was there, whether there was a fear of suicide or not, if there was a fear of suicide, or if there was a fear of, of doing something wrong, or I may hurt the kid, or I may push them too hard, if you had some, A, did you have some of those fears? And B, how did you push through or tackle those fears?
I never had that fear with my older one. My younger one, had multiple things that I don't want to.
Sure.
That's her private stuff. So
Right. Yeah, I was just curious.
I'm not anonymous.
Right on. And I was just curious if there was a shift in how you treated, and you said that.
Definitely.
That you definitely
I had to shift because as a single parent, we're trying to balance that sort of like moon sun attitude towards our kids, right? The soft and the hard. And I had to sort of flip it with both my kids.
And finally, if I may, one more question, then I want to come back. I have some more questions for you on this, Bennett. What had to change inside of you in order for you to make that change in how you interacted with your eldest? Bennett talks about how she has her fears and so forth, and really then the pain of it all getting so bad. Basically, she, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Bennett, so correct me if you want, but basically it's like, I got to toughen up. This is bullshit. I cannot let this happen anymore. And she found her strength because of all the pain. And so she sort of pushed through her fear of hurting the child because it was hurting everyone else.
I think your book helped me a lot. First of all, to center myself, right? And feel confident in my own decisions with things. But also NAMI helped me, as a mother. NAMI helped me by saying things like, this is not an excuse for being an asshole, or, just things like that. Being in group counseling with other parents that were experiencing the exact same things that I was really helpful. I see it in our own group in Community Plus, where people are helping each other. It's not just you giving them the answers, but they're actually giving each other answers and support.
Yeah. We are big fans of group work, and for those of you listening, we do have two groups that are available to you. One is totally free. It's got 40,000 members. It's the Badass Counseling Group on Facebook. It's a very supportive community. And then those who just want more resources, more support, greater connection, there's Community Plus on badasscounseling.com. So let me ask you then, Bennett, back to it, if I may. What for you now? So we talked about how on one hand you feel like you can't sort of control what your 21-year-old does, but to KC's point, hey, there are rules, there are expectations. You're going to live under it. This is the trade-off. You're not a 12-year-old anymore. It's not a free ride. All right. Mm-hmm. So there are chores, but there are also expectations, and you have to. One of the opportunities that KC brought up is saying to the child, you have to be in some sort of counseling. It is required if you're going to live here. And I personally love that. And so forth. But does that feel right to you, or does that feel off, or does it scare you, or I couldn't implement that, or what are your thoughts on that? Using the fact that, hey, we're in a team situation, and this is the price of what you're getting out of this. What are your thoughts on that, Bennett?
Actually, it's empowering to hear it. It gives me that confidence to be able to say, yeah, I can legitimately say that. I can do that.
That's right.
And I can ask that of him.
That's right. Okay. That's right. It's funny, a very good friend of mine, a young woman, she's about, 27, 28. She made the comment that she has friends. We were talking about one of the episodes of the show that I had done, and she was talking about how she has friends who have different forms of, schizophrenia or psychosis or whatever. And she says they are still accepted. They are still expected in their friend groups and in their families to be accountable, that it's not a free pass to be to use KC's words, to be an asshole. It's not a free pass. And that you have every right, again, to KC's point, to secure your own mass before securing the mass of everyone else. In other words, to look out for your own boundaries and to protect that younger kid. And not just protect them, but they have every right to have a full life and not have it all be about what has sort of become the golden child or the problem child in the home. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, you finding your power and your justification. You said before that, I question myself. The problem is I question myself. And let me ask you then, the question I'm really dying to ask you is, what is the biggest obstruction or obstacle, do you think, to you trusting yourself more? And just sort of saying, you know what? I'm tired of doubting myself. And if I'm going down trusting my own instincts and believing in my voice. And I know I'm a good person and I know I make strong decisions. And what is the biggest obstacle to you finally just giving yourself permission to trust yourself?
It's a long time coming. I've been teaching myself this little trick and how to do that. I'm trying to believe in myself. I think it's hard when you try and there's a disappointment once again. And so therefore I again doubt myself and think, well, maybe I shouldn't trust myself. But I think the more success I have, the better it becomes, the easier it becomes.
That's right. And that's really great instruction to all of us, even those of us who don't have problems with our kids, or this applies to any area of our life where we're listening to our own intuition. That doesn't mean you're going to hit it out of the ballpark every single time you trust your own intuition. That doesn't mean you're going to, every time you do it, it's a win. It simply means that it felt right to me and I acted on what felt right to me based on, you're a smart person. I've assessed the situation. I've been doing my research. I flushed out all of my emotions that might cloud my decision making, and then I made the best decision. And as long as you're willing to stand by that, even if it goes wrong, then you've done well. I tell people that one of the pivotal points in my life was realizing I would rather fail doing it my way than succeed doing it someone else's way. And I don't mean that doesn't necessarily straight apply in this situation, because sometimes somebody else's way, they may have greater insight. But what I'm talking about is when you've gathered insights and wisdom from all the sources, you sort of have to sift that out and bake it together into a little pie that becomes sort of what feels right inside of me based on all those other pieces of information. Let me ask you this, though. What is the biggest sentence inside of you in your life that has caused you to doubt yourself most, maybe even long before your children came around? What is the one sentence that's been tumbling around inside your melon and in your gut, maybe your whole life, maybe since you were 8 or whatever? What's the one sentence that always seems to undermine you?
Oh, that's coming easy now. I didn't before.
What is it?
It comes easy now. I'm not wanted.
I am not
wanted.
Not wanted. And I gotta ask, how was that message conveyed to you as a child? Were you literally told, I don't want you, I never wanted you, and when I found out I was pregnant, or when I found out your mom was pregnant, I groaned and I did everything in my life to try to get away? Now, the truth is, some people actually literally have had that. Did you have that? Or how was you're not wanted conveyed to you?
My mother was a 15-year-old's mother. Her focus was her and only her. She despised my biological father and told me many lies about him and different things. We had a very difficult relationship for many years.
You and mom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She married 3 times, and I know that's really doesn't mean anything, but I just feel like each time she married, she treated me and my siblings based on how she felt about the father.
Wow.
So because she hated my father, she hated me.
Right.
I looked like him when he passed away, when I found out in my 30s. Yeah, everyone said I looked just like him. I act just like him.
And of course, if she hated him, of course, then you're the living reminder, and then she was cruel to you. And what is the single biggest impact on a child of believing they are not wanted? Of not just believing it, knowing it. It's visible in how she's treating you. She clearly didn't want you. And so what was the single biggest impact on you, your decision-making, your sense of self, and your life, having been taught that you're not wanted? What was the biggest impact?
I mean, truthfully, it was a life of hell. It was a life of hell. I picked the wrong relationships.
Okay, you picked the wrong relationships. And what
I picked wrong. Yeah.
How do they cause you to act in relationships, in friendships, in parenting, in work? What fundamentally was the biggest impact on how you acted, or or your thought process?
That's a tough one. I don't know how to summarize it.
When you believe you're not wanted, do you believe that you're fundamentally good or fundamentally flawed and bad?
Oh, I'm absolutely bad. Oh, horrible.
And so if you are bad and even horrible, Would a kid or a 27-year-old or whatever who believes they're flawed and bad, would they tend to trust their own inner voice or distrust it? Because I'm fucked. I'm a fucking idiot. I'm flawed. I'm fucked. Would that person trust their own voice or distrust their own inner voice?
Oh, absolutely distrust.
Precisely.
Oh, yes.
So
much.
now, are we seeing a link between how you've been parenting and not trusting your own voice and fear I might be missing? And you said, even though a lot of it has changed, you still have residue of that in your life of not trusting your own inner, your own inner voice. And we can see tracks all the way back. What has been the biggest thing, while it is still there, what's been the biggest shift for you, or what has caused the shift to trusting your voice a bit more? What's been the biggest thing that had caused that shift?
I think that was what I was saying earlier, how my biological father passed away when I was in my 30s, and seeking the truth, seeking the answers, looking for, now my answers passed away with him. I'm not going to get the truth, but I went to his family. I went to my stepfather's family. I asked them questions. I inquired about things. And that's when I discovered that there was a lot of lies that were told to me, a lot of things that were so not right about this person.
And what you're referring to your mother, right? And so let me ask you, what, as of today, is the big unanswered question of your life?
That's a good question.
And maybe there's nothing. Maybe you feel at peace with it all and so on and so forth. But you went on this giant vision quest to sort of discover your story, in particular the aspect of who was my mother, what the fuck. And so are there any great unanswered questions still? Is there still some truth you are trying to seek or some gem you're trying to find?
I mean, there must be, because I separated myself from her, but she keeps sort of popping back in again and wanting to rectify things or talk about things or make things better between us.
And the reason you don't want to, it feels fake. And it feels fake because what? What is it you think that is really going on below the surface? What is she really wanting, or what's really driving it?
It's for her, I think, the need of proving that I was a 15-year-old mother and look where I am, look what I did. My whole family's great. My family's wonderful. I did a good job.
And you don't want to give her that because you're saying you did not do a good job. You fucked me over. Let me ask,
you
right?
Fucked me up.
Okay.
You fucked me up.
So then let me ask you this, the straight question. What do you still want from your mother? If you were to be totally fucking honest, what do you still want from her? And you giggled right there. What was that giggle? You giggled.
Because I'm going to take a lot of heat for this one probably. So because of all the work I've done and everything, she's done herself well with a relationship. So she's done a lot of things because she is financially
sure. What do you want?
Stable. I want money. I just want her to make my life easier. Give me my money.
Give me my money. And when you say
my
money, that implies that when she dies, you're in the will and you'll get the money. Is that what we're talking about really here?
It's so sad, and I'm so sorry to say this.
Fuck
and that's
that.
horrible.
No, fuck that. You're not a bad person. Haven't you beaten up on yourself enough? Hasn't everyone else beaten up on you enough? If that's your motivation, that's your motivation. And you know what? If we're all just being a little fucking like, you know what, lady? And talking to your mom, you fucked my life over. You know what? I want the fucking payoff. But here's the problem, Bennett. And I'm not opposed to it. If that's what feels right to you, I say fucking go for it. All right. But the problem is that means she has something you want. If I tell little 8-year-old Billy, I have a $20 bill here and I'm going to give this to you. You can literally have $20. Although for kids nowadays, 20 probably isn't much. Here's a $50 bill. You can have it. All you have to do is take it out of my hand. Now, little Billy is like 4'9", and so he's jumping, trying to grab it. And I just put my hand above my head. Well, I'm 6'4". Yeah, the hand above my head, and it's about 8 feet in the air. And he's jumping, he's trying to crawl up me, and I shake him off. I said, all you got to do is, once you get it, it's yours. And he's crawling up me, and then he goes and he gets his dad's ladder out of the fucking garage, and he puts the ladder next to me, and he climbs up the ladder to grab it, and I just take 3 steps back. And then before you know it, he's frustrated, and he's crying. I made the little peckerhead cry and all this shit. The bottom line is, when someone has something that I want, they have the power to make me miserable. So you are still playing in her orchestra. You are still basically sniffing around, licking her ass because you want that fucking money. She fucking owns you.
pretty much.
Right. So you're playing this little cat and mouse, and I'm not dogging you for it. If you want the money, fucking go for the money. It's your life. There's no judgment from me here, dude. I've done infinitely more corrupt shit in my life. So, and I'm not even calling that corrupt. I'm just saying, don't worry about it. For at least not from
Sven,
me.
I'll probably wait for it, Sven, and then the day she dies, I'll find out it wasn't in the will to begin with anyways.
Well, and not just wait for it, but allow her to keep coming in and fucking with you. But let me ask you this. If you were to be totally honest, knowing that she is this fake and so on and so forth, but let's say she underwent some radical transformation of character. Okay? And if you could have the money or a relationship with mom in which she actually listens, actually apologizes, actually isn't just trying to prove herself, but actually is like giving you love and owning her shit. If you could choose the money or that, which would you choose? And there's no right or wrong answer, dude. I just want the truth.
I guess I'm still seeking the accountability. I'm still seeking that, like, but I want you to say it. Say those words to me. You screwed up. And she has done the 5-cent apology. I sent her your video about the 5-cent apology and all that. And apparently you are biased. So, that's okay. Whatever.
That's what she said?
Wants.
Is that what she said?
That's what she said. She said you were biased. Yes.
Right.
But
right.
I've got the 5-cent apology
for the $500 crime. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but in the end, then, if you could have the money or a loving, actually giving relationship with your mother, you would choose that relationship. Am I hearing you correctly?
I would. I think I would.
And what in the end would that relationship, her acknowledgement and so forth, what in the end would that give you? Deep down, what would it give you?
I just feel like peace, maybe.
And why? Absolutely peace. Brilliant answer. But why? And you're choking up a little bit. My guests can't see you, but I can, and I can see that you're crying. What are you crying about right now? And it's good that you're crying, but why are you crying? What are you feeling right now? What the fuck did I say that caused you to start crying?
It's just, sad.
What is sad?
Having a mother. Having a mother. Just where have you been all my life? Like, why did you abandon me? Why did you leave me alone to do this all by myself?
And underneath all of those questions is you're hurting me. You've been hurting me. I'm so sad. Why have you hurt me so much? I just wanted your love, and you've been hurting me your whole life, my whole life. And even now today, by trying to prove yourself or the 5-cent apology, it's about you, and you never made it about me. You were supposed to love me.
Yes.
I'm just this little girl who just be nice to me.
Right? How hard is it for real?
How hard is it for real? And you would have that peace. If you had that relationship, you would have that peace. Why? Because for the first time in your life, she would be conveying the message, I want you. And I don't just want you because you'll meet my needs. And I don't just want you because you'll prove how good I am. For the first time, I want you just because you're you and you are my daughter in whom I am well pleased.
It's how I feel about my daughter. And I don't understand. I don't understand her because how can you not love somebody so much? Like, I have my own daughter now, and the love I feel for her is so incredible.
Right.
So
and
how can you not?
And not just feel, but you act on. And so for your mother to give you, so deep down, you are still wanting that relationship with your mother because fundamentally it would destroy the message that she taught you. You are not wanted. That for the first time in your life, it would destroy that message. So at some very, very deep level, you are still wanting your mother to confirm that you are wanted and therefore you have worth. And the problem, as you already know, is she's not going to do that. So then you are left with fundamentally one realization. And the realization is, as you may have heard me say before on the show, when we are children, the child naturally, innately believes mom and dad are good, or in your case, mom raised you, mom and dad are good, mom and dad love me. Therefore, if I'm not getting love or if I'm being rejected, or if I'm being hit or put down, if they are good and they love me, then if I'm not getting love, I'm the problem. There's something wrong with me. And so I'm going to ask you what you've probably heard me ask others before. What is it that could possibly be wrong with a 7-year-old girl or a 4-year-old girl or an 11-year-old girl? What could be possibly so fucked up about her that it would justify her not getting love from her parents? I mean, if mom and dad are good and I'm not getting love, it must be something wrong with me. So I want to know what was wrong. What could possibly be wrong with a 7-year-old girl that would justify her not being given love over the long haul?
That's a great question, because I don't know. I can't figure that out. I was a cute kid.
Okay, hold on. Your daughter was 7 years old once. Your son was 7 years old once. Mm-hmm. What could have possibly been so fucked up about your 7-year-old daughter? Is it even possible for a 7-year-old to be so fucked up that they don't deserve love?
No.
Of course not.
I mean, no.
Can you think of any 5-year-old, any 9-year-old who is such a problem, such a bad kid that they don't deserve love?
They absolutely deserve love.
Absolutely.
All the time.
Which means there's a flaw in your theory. Because none of them, they all deserve love. But you are the one exception. You were so fucking bad. I was so bad, I didn't deserve love. You're saying all other kids deserve it, but not me. I was the problem. Talking about you, Bennett. So let me ask you, Bennett, what was so fucked up about you that you didn't? Every other 8-year-old deserves love, but not me. So I want to know, what was so fucked up about 8-year-old you that you just didn't deserve love from a mother and love from a father? Tell me.
I was too much work.
Nonsense. No. There was nothing. No, there was nothing wrong with you.
Agree.
You were an 8-year-old child. You were an 11-year-old child. You were a 15-year-old child. You were wonderful. You were sweet. You were rambunctious. You were playful. You were creative. You were smart. You'd steal a little extra cookie if you could get away with it. You were cranky when you didn't get your nap. There was nothing wrong with the child. The reason you weren't getting love had nothing to do with you. The reason your mother rejected you and did not want you had nothing to do with your worth. That means the original premise, mom and dad are good, mom and dad love me. Either you, and the reason I'm not getting love is because I'm the problem. I'm no good. So either you're no good or they didn't love you and they weren't good parents. It has to be one or the other. What is the reason that you weren't getting love? Was it because you were the problem? This 8-year-old child was the problem?
No.
Then what was the reason you weren't getting the love, Bennett?
She hated me. She hated me, and she just didn't want me in her life. So she rejected me.
That's right. So the original premise that mom and dad are good, mom and dad love me was bullshit. She didn't love you. You even say she hated you, and she wasn't a good parent.
She wasn't attentive. She wasn't there. She wasn't nurturing. She claimed she was. She even told me she has pictures to prove it.
Well, she has to. She has to sell that story to justify her own existence. And she's willing to do it at the expense of you and your own inner health and your soul health.
Yes.
Right. Which means you were taught a lie. And the lie was that there was something wrong with you. And there was never anything wrong with you. That you were wantable, you were enough, you were lovable, and the real you mattered. You were taught a lie, and that lie that you aren't See, it's not just that you weren't wanted by mom. It's just that the child converts I'm not wanted into this. I'm not wantable. See, I'm not wanted is an assessment of how I'm being treated by people around me. I'm not wantable says that's the reason. The reason they don't want me is because I'm flawed, but that was never true, was it?
I'm discovering that it's not true now.
It was never true. Because if you're going to say it was true about you, then you have to say it was true about your little girl. and you're a little son. And you have to say it was true about Casey when she was 5 and Rob when he was 9 and all the other little boys and girls. All right? Because if it was true, if you can be so flawed, then they must be too. No. So you were taught a lie. And the problem was the parent. That she fucked you over and she has fucked you hard and she has continued to do so. And she continues to want to sell the idea that she was good, but that means you were bad. If you buy into her shit even 1 ounce, it means you were the problem. And so let me ask you this final question. What is the impact of knowing that you were never the problem to begin with? That it's not your fault and that you've been a wantable, lovable person your entire life? What is the impact of fully realizing that she was the problem from the beginning and it had nothing to do with you?
It was like a burden off of my shoulders. It was, finally somebody showing me or teaching me myself that I am okay.
You're wonderful.
I don't want to use the word empowering again, but
it is.
It was like, it is. It was so empowering. And it's like, every once in a while I have a slip back and I forget this, and I have to remind myself that my recovery time is quicker. Yep. And that's when I realized, like, this feels fantastic to know this,
that's right.
Like,
and the more that it is powerful, and the more we grow into that, and so we start making decisions from that place versus I suck, I'm no good, I'm unloved, I'm crap. It's a totally different place. And the more we do it, the more we build that belief system. Every time you choose make a decision from a sense of self-worth, that is your statement to the universe, I fucking matter. Bennett, I want to thank you for being on the show. Would you be willing to come back right afterwards and spend a little overtime with us? Just stay put? Great. I want to thank you for being on the show, Bennett. This has been really interesting, and the connection of what's going on with your own children and how that relates in your treatment of it back to your own childhood, just fascinating. KC, do you have any final thoughts or words? On Bennett, regarding Bennett?
I think she's doing the best job she could possibly do with a really bad situation. And I had an adult. When I was born, my mother was 38 years old. When you were born, your mother was 15. I mean, 15. I'm not making excuses for her, but I'm just saying, you started out at a deficit. I mean, a 15-year-old mother, that's a child. And I'm so sorry for all that you're going through and all that she can't see and that she can't give you the real apology that you need. Because, I love my own children and I want to totally give them whatever they need to heal. And I know that even the best mothers, make mistakes, and I haven't been the best mother and I've made a lot of mistakes and I'm willing to apologize for those things.
Yeah. And it's not that your mom can't apologize, just for the record. She won't. Right, it's a choice. It's not that she can't own it. She doesn't want to. She is choosing to protect herself at the expense of her child. All right. It's not that she can't. She won't. All right. Thank you so much, Bennett, for being on the show. Rob, any final thoughts?
Yes, Sven, you are biased. You're biased into helping people and uncovering the truth.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. And it's needed because Bennett has been a wonderful person her entire life. It's just that she was never taught to see it. And I'm so glad to know that she is now. Well, to everyone listening into the show, I think we can all agree this has been a fascinating story. I encourage you to stick around afterwards for the overtime. To all of you tuning in around the world, thanks for joining KC and Roberto and me on the Badass Counseling Show, and have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by 2-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.